Welcome to episode 199 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Lost Guy. It's May 18, 1931. Buenos Aires. 18 clubs break away and form the Liga Argentina de Football. The ball will not roll in the new professional championship until May 31, but this is the boardroom date, the rupture date, the day Argentine football stops pretending. Players are being paid, crowds are too big, transfers are too valuable. The amateur fiction has collapsed. And from this split, messy, dissident, and controversial, comes the professional league that will produce Boca, River, La Máquina, Los Profesores, the Big Five, Estudiantes Rebellion, Maradona, Messi, and Argentina's modern football identity. This is the day Argentine professionalism begins. But how did we get here? We start with Rio de la Plata. Argentina and Uruguay had built each other through football. First internationals, cup matches, steamers across the river, newspapers, grudges, imitation, and escalation. Uruguay got the symbolic head start. Olympic gold in 1924, Olympic gold again in 1928, beating Argentina in the final replay. Then the first World Cup in 1930, in Montevideo, and again Argentina lost to Uruguay in the final. Argentina were not weak. They won the 1929 South American Championship. They had extraordinary players, huge crowds, fierce clubs, and a deep football culture. But the institutions were repeatedly messy. Rival associations, breakaways, amateur codes, player disputes. The game was growing faster than its governance. Uruguay's formal professional league came in 1932, after Argentina's break, but Uruguay's international success had already created the pressure. Argentina could look across the river and see a smaller country with the medals, the World Cup, the prestige, and the modern football aura. Meanwhile, Buenos Aires football was bursting out of old amateur clothes. The game had begun with British schools, railways, and clubs. The first recorded match in Argentina was in 1867. Alexander Watson Hutton helped build the early association structure in the 1890s. Alumni became the great amateur symbol. Then football became popular. Barrios, workers, immigrant families, packed grounds, clubs that no longer looked like British social circles, but like urban identities. And by the late 1920s, amateur no longer meant what it claimed to mean. Players received jobs, bonuses, gifts, and expenses. Clubs charged at the gate. Newspapers sold copy. Radio was arriving. Big clubs needed talent and could pay for it, openly or not. So the argument became impossible to avoid. Should football remain an amateur moral project, or should it admit what everyone already knew? And in May 1931, the old Asociación Amateurs Argentina de Football tried to get ahead of the crisis by starting its championship on May 10. It was a disaster. Low crowds, missing players, teams patched together with youngsters. Some matches could not be played because the footballers simply weren't there. The strike had won. And on May 18, the break came. The major clubs founded the Liga Argentina de Football. Boca Juniors, River Plate, Independiente, Racing, San Lorenzo, plus Huracán, Vélez, Estudiantes, Gimnasia, Lanús Platense, Quilmes, Atlanta, Argentinos Juniors, Chacarita, Ferro, Talleres de Remedios de Escalada, and Tigre. It was dissident. It was not the old official amateur body, but it had the crowds, the players, and the money. And that is the key. The official league could continue on paper. The professional league had the future. On May 31st, the first professional round began. Boca drew 0-0 with Chacarita. River beat Atlanta 1-0. San Lorenzo beat Tigre 4-2. Estudiantes beat Talleres 3-0. Ferro, Platense, Huracán, and Gimnasia also opened with wins. And the season settled into a simple double round robin. 18 clubs, 34 matches, 2 points for a win. The first professional champion was Boca Juniors. They finished 5 points ahead of San Lorenzo. It was a huge moment for Boca. The club of La Boca, the workers, the port, the crowd, now crowned at the start of the paid era. But the team everyone talked about was Estudiantes, Los Profesores, Miguel Ángel Lauri, Alejandro Scopelle, Alberto Sosaya, Manuel Ferreira, and Enrique Guaita. a forward line of teachers, not because they were professors in classrooms, but because they taught football lessons. So Saya became the league's top scorer, and Estudiantes scored and scored and scored. And then came the absurd Lanús match. On August 30, Estudiantes led Lanús 8-0 after only 23 minutes of the second half. The superiority was so complete that Lanús's captain, Edmundo Piaggio, asked referee Lorenzo Martinez to end the match. Martinez consulted Estudiantes' captain, and the game was stopped early. That is professional football arriving with full Argentine theater, goals, humiliation, pity, pride, and a referee deciding that, yes, maybe enough was enough. So what did it all mean? The split created the modern Argentine football economy. Players could now be paid directly. Clubs could compete openly for talent. River soon became Los Millonarios because of the money they spent, especially on Bernabé Ferreira. Boca had Barallo. San Lorenzo had power. Racing and Independiente remained giants. The big five, Boca, River, Independiente, Racing, and San Lorenzo, became not merely big clubs, but a title oligopoly. And the amateur league kept going. That is essential. For 4 years, Argentina had parallel worlds. The professional dissident league with the big clubs and the official amateur competition, increasingly devalued. Estudiantil Porteño, Sportivo Barracas, Sportivo Dock Sud. They won titles in that official structure, but the gravitational pull had moved. International football also exposed the absurdity. There was no football at the 1932 Olympics. The South American Championship had not been played since 1929 until it returned in 1935. And at the 1934 World Cup, Argentina sent an amateur squad without the stars of the professional league and lost 3-2 to Sweden in their only match. The split had become a national problem. So in November 1934, the structures were fused into what became the Asociación del Fútbol Argentino, the AFA. The professional titles from 1931 to 1934 were absorbed into official history, and from 1935, the league had one central professional framework. And professionalism made Argentine football terrifying. River's La Máquina in the 1940s, Muñoz, Moreno, Pedernera, La Bruna, and Rusto, a forward line so good that it became almost a philosophical object. Boca's great teams, Racing's Máquina, Independiente becoming kings of cups, San Lorenzo, Huracán, Vélez, Estudiantes, Rosario Central, Newell's, and Lanús. Different eras, different identities, all living inside the professional machine born in 1931. For decades, the Big Five dominated. And from the beginning of professionalism until 1967, no club outside that group won the professional league. And then the structure changed. The Metropolitano and Nacional formats opened the door. And as we discussed 2 days ago in episode 197, Estudiantes walked through it. First, non-Big Five professional champion in 1967, then Copa Libertadores in 68, then 69, then 70, until they lost the 71 final. So 1931 leads to 1967 in a very direct way. The professional league creates the aristocracy. The later format change creates the rebellion. And finally, the league became a factory for the national team. Argentina's World Cup wins in 1978, 86, and 2022 do not come from nowhere. They come from a culture where clubs produce players under enormous pressure, where football is daily identity, where Buenos Aires, Rosario, La Plata, Córdoba, Santa Fe, and the provinces keep feeding the system. But there is a modern paradox. Argentine clubs have shaped the Copa Libertadores and won intercontinental cups. But in the modern Club World Cup era, they no longer dominate globally. But why? Money. Europe buys the best Argentine players earlier and earlier. The professional league still produces talent, but the peak years often happen abroad. And that is not failure. It is a global market using Argentina as one of its deepest sources of football intelligence. And that began, officially, with the moment the game stopped lying to itself on this day in 1931. So before we go, 3 things to take away from May 18, 1931. First, Argentine professionalism was not a clean reform. It was a breakaway by powerful clubs after strikes, low crowds, hidden payments, and amateur governance had become impossible. And second, the first professional season gave us Boca as champion and Estudiantes Los Profesores as the great attacking story, including the 8-0 against Lanús that was stopped early because the mismatch had become ridiculous. And third, the 1931 split created the structure that shaped everything after it, the Big Five, La Máquina, Libertadores Giants, Estudiantes 1967 rebellion, and the player pipeline that still keeps Argentina at the center of world football. On this day in 1931, 18 Argentine clubs founded the Liga Argentina de Football, and the country that had been pretending to be amateur finally created the professional stage worthy of its football obsession. That is all for episode 199 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Lost Guy. Tomorrow, episode 200 takes us to May 19, 1968, when Iran defeated Israel 2-1 to claim the Asian Cup. See you then.